Hey, all right. Let's. I don't know. We'll see how good of a cut that was in post. The minimal post I do. I already can tell. There's always going to be like, maybe I'll do a cold open. That's what I should be doing. I'll do a cold open, then the title, then go into it. Then it will never. Then I won't have to do the post editing, which I haven't done any yet. Except for once when I like left it, it didn't stop. I pushed stop stream and it didn't stop. That one I had to edit. But usually, because it's the whole philosophy here is that you're seeing the process. It's not an excuse for me to do a shit job. Anyway, today's movie is Young Törless. I believe that's how you say it. Törless. By, oh God, Volker Schlondorff, I believe is how you say his name. It's awesome. It's a German movie, and it's about it came out in 1966, but it's about the early 1900s. A boy goes off to Austria to a boarding school, where it's rigorous studies and you're all dressed up. Well, it's like basically like a military school, seems like. But we focus on, and instantly you're like, oh, this is like Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner, or the movie If by Lindsay Anderson. And I think I originally got this a few months ago when I read the list of 93 movies that Stanley Kubrick really liked. It wasn't a list that he made. It was just movies that he had in various interviews or whatever or correspondence had like stated that he really liked those movies. And so I think the first one I watched was The Bank Dick, because I hadn't seen any W.C. Fields stuff other than like pieces of shorts and like little clips, and he was right. That movie's sweet. But this one's even better. And you can see it's like rare to find to see like something that Kubrick like stole or was influenced by, because his stuff seems so original. And you're like, no, people steal from him, But there is, obviously, he was influenced, by people. And he was definitely influenced by Volker here. So you can really like, there's some Lolita, there's some mainly in the... it looks like Full Metal Jacket kind of stuff. Also, it's like Biloxi Blues, because it's all right. So let me get into what it's about. It really focuses on this group of 4 kids. Young Törless is new to the school, and he's our protagonist. He's very smart, but a little bit shy, and he has he's got to go through the bumps and trials to like get in with a group of kids. But he starts hanging out with these 2 kids. One who's kind of like pretty mean, and one who is very smart and like philosophically based and has a plan for life. He seems very worldly and almost intelligent beyond his years or whatever. And then a third guy who I should have known. I should have written down their names. Son of a biscuit. Anyway, this third guy is always like borrowing money from people. These kids are like 15, 16, 17 years old. And like he just spends his money frivolously off campus at like going to prostitutes and going to dinner, and he loses money gambling, and he owes money to everybody, and people are sick of it. So they decide, young Törless is kind of just along for the ride, but his other 2 buddies and their like little secret society decide to like reform this kid via like torture, like punishment, humiliation, to try and like correct him. And it's fucking fascinating. It's so good. There's no set pieces. Nothing happens. It's all conversations in the attic and stuff. Like, it's amazing. Nothing happens and everything happens, It's like this kid goes from, young Törless goes from like not understanding anything about the world to like coming up with a whole philosophy. It's like such a great coming of age movie, because you don't see any of the moves happening. It just happens. You're like, God damn, young Törless, this is fucking great. So one of the big conflicts he has, it's like a Holden Caulfield, where do the fish go when the river freezes over, when the lake freezes over, or whatever. Well, turns out, Holden, they go to the bottom and they live there, because very, very rarely does a pond freeze all the way through to the bottom, because luckily water is one of the few substances, maybe the only substance on Earth, I'm not 100% sure, that when in its solid form, it is less dense than in its liquid form. So the ice rises to the top. So there's still water going on underneath there. But yes, it can freeze all the way, and then all the fish fucking freeze. I don't know. Sorry, Holden. But I think it was more of a metaphoric thing, where do the ducks go or whatever. For, when the ducks leave Tony Soprano, they're a metaphor. But they actually are ducks. Anyway, in this, his math professor brings up the concept of imaginary numbers, which are all based on the square root of -1, and he's like, you can't, because any negative, two negatives make a positive. And he's like, how is that possible? Like, how is it possible that there is something that doesn't exist in the real world that we can make a formula out of that will construct a bridge in the real world, like literally a bridge, and that will be perfectly stable and functioning? Like, how can we, like, if it's mathematics, there can't be any mystery, right? Isn't everything hard, logical, provable? So that like kind of throws his head off a little bit. And even the teacher's like, you will get it later. Like, you don't have enough math knowledge currently to be able to understand it, which is like basically a teacher saying, I can't explain it to you. Or like, you're right, you've brought up something that I've just kind of given up on, and you, because you're hearing it for the first time, are going, wait, that doesn't make any sense. And I've just been doing it for like 30 years, so now it's just the way I think about it, even though I haven't really questioned it. Because, at this age, you're questioning everything if you're especially if you're given the opportunity to, and you don't have to worry about like your survival. Then you get to really spend time reading books and going, what the fuck is going on here? So that kind of throws him off. And then when this kid starts getting tortured, he's kind of like, well, wait, if that's possible, like, how, like, is there good and bad in the world? And how do we determine it? Like, am I bad for doing this? Is like, what can we push people towards? And ultimately he comes to the conclusion that like anything is possible, and he doesn't know like how to reconcile it, and he doesn't think that there is like good or evil or maybe even justice in the world. And he's amazed at how even a smart, rational group of people can be like overwhelmed by an ideology and take things out of control, like take it too far. And then instantly you're like, oh, this movie's about Nazis, isn't it? Any movie made in the 60s in Germany about pre-World War I or that time period is probably going to be like, laying the seeds for like a mentality of that can foster an environment where the Nazi party can be elected, and not just like a coup or something like that, but literally the people, are taking it into their hands and voting for Hitler. It's great because you see where it comes, you see how that happens. You can make this same movie about Trump, and I'm sure they will. And I can't wait until, like Adam McKay's movie that's just going to be called Trump or whatever, that'll come out in like 2024 or 26 or something like that. It'll win an Oscar, and it'll just be about like the satire of this whole thing, but also showing like, hopefully it would show like what elements in the country led to such a circus, and that's what this is doing, but on the smallest scale. Like, this movie is so minute, even though it's in a huge school full of people. We really only focus on these 4 kids and like 1 or 2 professors, but even them are fairly minimal. I really liked it. And also the cinematography, very beautiful, simplistic, well blocked, nice camera moves, but very simple, no big moves, except for one point where like the whole school is turned against the kid who's a thief, who's been borrowing too much money, and then he that's all. He also is a thief. That's what like pushes him over the thing, is that then he just steals money. Anyway, they like get him in the gym, and they're like all beating on him and stuff, and they hang him up by the rings, the gymnastic rings, and they do a shot where like everybody's coming in on the kid, like this, and then the camera comes up, and it's not just to be fancy, because it must have been tough to do it like a fucking crane shot in this little gymnasium with like a very small budget, but it has a visual, which is why you do anything in a movie, hopefully a visual impact on like, oh shit, this kid's outnumbered, and you can see how like the masses can turn against one person, and people stop thinking as an individual, start thinking as a group. It's fascinating. And like, I feel like I've even explained it too much. Like the movie itself doesn't even explain itself as much as I have, other than like kind of a monologue the main character gives near the end. But it's not one of those movies where like, it's one of those movies where I know in like a year or two I'm going to have to rewatch, because there's no like one event, you know what I mean? There's just like a handful of conversations. So I'm not sure how well it'll stick in my memory. It's not like stylized, overly stylized in any way. These are positive things, but I know it's going to be one of those movies where I'm like, I know I like that movie a lot. Like when I'll see it on my shelf, but I don't remember why I like it, which is good, which means I'll watch it every few years for like the rest of my life, hopefully, which, should be, hopefully be in a, hopefully I'll get to watch it again. Young Törless. Yeah, it's good, and I'll keep my copy I got because I think it's out of print, because it's a Criterion movie. I got it real cheap on eBay. That's why it's got all the fucking stickers on it. It's from Elmhurst Public Library, which I believe is in Chicago. Yeah, Elmhurst. Oh no, sorry, Illinois. 60126, 125 South Prospect Ave. Huh. Good for him. I'll read the back of the box. And an Austrian. See, it's important that it's Austrian, because Hitler. Anyway, at an Austrian. I've never seen that. 3A. At an Austrian boys' boarding school in the early 1900s, shy, intelligent Törless observes the sadistic behavior of his fellow students, doing nothing to help a victimized classmate until the torture goes too far. Adapted from Robert Muslin's acclaimed novel, young Törless helped launch the new German cinema movement and garnered the 66 Cannes Film Festival International Critics Prize for first-time director Volker Schlondorff. Let's see if there's anything else on the little booklet that might be of interest. I got the sticker off the disc.